the process of constructing partnerships to improve management of Lake Chapala Basin in Mexico. I am particularly happy of being here because in 2007 I had the opportunity to come first time to the World Conference. It was held in India, and it was possible for me because I won the Kasumigaura Prize. So being here in Kasumigaura is especially important. I feel very happy about this. Okay, this is where Lake Chapala is located. It's in Mexico, between Guatemala and USA. It is belongs to a very extended watershed, which is the Lerma-Santiago Basin, sorry. And the lake is located in the middle of it. It's big. We're talking about a big watershed also. It's a little bit more than 52,000 square kilometers. The lake itself is 1,140 kilometers, but it's not very big. It's the average deep is 7.5 meters only. And one of the problems that generated all the process of work from an institution, basically it was a severe drought which happened from 1998 to 2002. At that moment, the lake was reduced to only 14% of its total volume, and it generated a social crisis because everybody was so concerned about it. People from Guadalajara city, which is the second one, the second largest in Mexico, depends on the lake because six of each 10 houses are taking water from there. So it was extremely difficult, and this generated a strong social mobilization and a lot of comments and declarations about the political groups involved in that part. This is not the worst that we saw at the lake at that moment. It was possible to walk another 100 meters inside the lake. It was taken 2 months before the worst moment. And one of the islands in the lake, it was connected to the mainland because it was possible to have a piece of land connecting both parts. Okay, so here, I was trying to understand this. Okay, there. Thank you. This is how it was looking after some couple of weeks later. This is some of the mobilization I was commenting you about. And this was called the war of water between two of the states in the basin. So to make it easier to understand, this part here, it belongs to one state, Jalisco, and this part here belongs to another state, which is Guanajuato. And there was problem because people in Guanajuato, basically, they are farmers, and they are using a lot of irrigation. And they didn't want to provide water to alleviate the difficult situation in the lake. But instead of working together, the governors started fighting each other, making a lot of declarations. And this is a joke, because they were saying, okay, they are going to war. Yeah, but it's only a war of words. They are not really doing anything about the process. It wasn't completely true. There was a set of agreements were reached after some months of struggle. But the fact is the lake recovered itself only because there was a very heavy rain season that year and the next one. In 2000, because of this process I'm mentioning, the Agenda Chapala was created. It was a document which helped to identify the management flaws in the area. And we are presenting here the most important of them. First one is that there was no involvement of strategic groups in decision-making process. There were rain farmers, ranchers, local communities, and municipalities weren't taken into account. They weren't part of the process for the whole, basically. It was only between the governors and the federal government also. The discussion was centered on water volume, matters about water recharge, runoff reduction, and non-point pollution weren't taken into account also. And there was a strong lack of monitoring and enforcement on forest areas, and the reliable data about what was going on and the causes of it was scarce, and it was very difficult to have access to it. So that's, in fact, the context where my institute was created. It was created in 2002. And the situation that we have at that moment is very, very small staff, limited funding, and very complex content. But we created the institute because we wanted to do something to move forward into the process of the integrated management of Lake Chapala. So basically, we decided that the best way to do what we want to do, it was to create partnerships. And basically, that's what I'm going to talk about to you. We start working in the Cóndero Canales mountain range. You can see here, it's Lake Chapala. Yeah, and this is the area where we start working. It is not so close to the lake. It's surrounded by cultivation areas. And this part, the fourth part, was under severe stress because the cultivation were pushing forward in order to have more surface for this. The first stage, we created partnership with an NGO, 3 municipalities and 1 national agency. And it was to create a diagnosis about the process and the root causes of it. The stakeholder involvement that we created from that part, this is Instituto Corazón de la Tierra, this is the communities in the area, and this is the 3 municipalities that took part into this. And the institute and the communities were having, were basing the relationship in the institute facilitating and providing technical advisory, but also about providing funding advisory, because the communities had access to different resources, but they didn't know. And because of that, they didn't know how to get it. But in the case of the communities, they were responsible of the decision-making process about their own territories and also about providing income. In the case between the municipalities and the municipalities were providing public services and procedure support because they weren't providing money directly, but they were helping to reach federal, state, and state level to get some funding for them. And between the municipalities and the institute, we were providing technical advisory and also co-funding, and they were providing basically regulation and funding directly in the small amounts, but important at that moment. Because of how difficult it is to work with communities, we had to use some methodological criteria. One of these was the dialogue of knowledge, because we start from the point that the communities, they have information, they have knowledge, but so many times it is shattered, it is dispersed, and it's necessary to understand what it is and to share and to socialize it with the rest of the group. That's the second point, the reconstruction of collective knowledge. And the third one, which is extremely important and extremely difficult, is the clarification of responsibilities. Because of the situation and the cultural process in Mexico, many of the small communities, they are so used to be dependent of external institutions. Basically, when the government approach to them with programs or projects or monetary fund, basically the local people is used to basically say, okay, give it to me. And they receive it, and they are not used to take responsibility about it and about what happened after the money stopped getting in. So we were very careful about making very clear agreements with them. And the fourth part, which is also extremely important, is the respect of the legal framework. Why I mention this? Because many times they approach it to the municipalities and also the institute, and they ask to do something to solve particular problems, but it would imply to break the law and to affect another groups or other people over there, and they thought it was fair, it was just. But we need to be very careful about bringing people who knows about all the legal processes to explain them what was possible and what wasn't and why. Okay, in the second stage, we had the direct involvement with these 8 communities, with 3 national agencies and 3 universities. But 2 of the municipalities decided not to take part anymore. There is an explanation about this, and I will tell you in a minute. But for the third stage, which went from 2007 to 2012, we had 6 communities, 2 left the process, 4 national agencies, 3 universities, 1 foreign institution from the USA, and 3 state agencies. So basically, these guys, yeah, they were providing funding, universities were providing research, and the foreign institution was providing both. And the communities, 2 of them decided to drop the process because the municipality left the process also. What we did, and during all this long process, it was capacity building, planning about the use of the territory, a lot of forest management for restoration, soil conservation, and also reforestation. Many of the activities were done in a very rustic way, without use of machinery, only with people using very simple tools. But here we can see what happened from 2001 to 2007. And we calculate that because of the work that all communities did during this process, 90,000 tons of soil were retained. There was an increasing in water infiltration, and there was also a reduction of floods in the communities downstream. Okay, this is part of the forest restoration I was mentioning before. And this is the interesting part for us. What were the difference between the stakeholders and why some of them decided to abandon the process? Basically, the most problematic area was between the municipalities and the institute, because based in political conflicts. Why? Because the administration in the municipalities change every 3 years. And the municipality, the new guys, the new mayors, they were very suspicious about the process, because they thought, okay, if you were working with the previous mayor, so basically you are spying for him or her. Yeah. And also, how can I be sure that you are not related with a political party? And so basically, probably if I continue providing funds and support for this process, I will be working for my political enemies. So this happened, it was extremely difficult, and some of them basically decided to leave the process. And between the communities and municipalities, there were also political conflicts, but also monetary interests. The political conflicts expressed because each municipality in all communities, they have a representative. And the representative, they also change, and they want to take power in the same way that the mayor. And this generated conflicts between the community members. And the monetary interest, it was, at least in 2 cases, people from the municipal government, not the mayor directly, they wanted to take some advantage about the territory, and because of the involvement of the federal and the state government, it was a flow of money. And they thought it could be maybe an opportunity there to do something and to get some personal benefit. But obviously, there was also very important to keep the good relationship between the institute and the communities, because the main problems that we have is communication gaps. Sometimes people understand something that we didn't try to mention, or sometimes they thought that we were taking responsibilities that we weren't taking, really. So basically, it was very important to have everything written, every decision-making, everything process, it has to be put into a letter, into a document, so that we can go back and try to solve many of the differences that could come over the process with that. Also, in the communities, there were new leaderships, and some of these leaders, they wanted to make their own process. They want to make a name by themselves, and it was extremely important to talk with them and to generate processes inside the communities that they can exchange information in an appropriate way. And based in this small model, which is these 8 communities, we jump to the Lake Chapala level, and we also created a lot of partnerships over there, but we use it for that purpose, the ILBM, the Integrated Lake Basin Management Platform. And with that, we are presenting here the number of projects that we applied, a total of 94, and where of the pillars they were related to. So if you can see, participation and information were the most important pillars for us because of the community involvement that I was mentioning before, and the case of information because there was a lack of reliable data, and we had to conduct a lot of research processes with several alliances, particularly universities from the Jalisco state, but also from the national level, and another 3 from US and 1 from Japan. We basically did research about water quality. We provided technical training for close to 300 people in the national level. Yeah, we promoted a lot about the ILBM platform in several parts, not only around Lake Chapala. And at the end of the process, which was stronger between 2008 and 2014, we had all these 9 sub-basins, each one with a lake or a river, involved in the process. And currently we have these partnerships very strong. They are getting involved more and more. We are working now with 11 community groups, 2 funds, one of them private and the other one public, with ILEC, the Forest Service of the United States, 2 agencies from Germany, and the intermunicipality, which was created along the process. The idea, of course, is to move from a very weak governance, where we understand governance as a little plant which has 6 roots, and if these roots are weak, obviously the plant itself will be weak. But if we can improve the strength of each one of these roots, then we will have strong governance, which is good for everyone. And basically that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.